talking about finding the inverse of functions, and we talked about rewriting the function. So if I was going to do this problem, uh, instead of writing as f of x, I would just do y is equal to 4x plus 20, and then we were told to rewrite it, flip-flop the x and y around, so I would rewrite this as x equals 4y plus 20, and then solve for y. That would be our inverse function. So if I subtract off 20 here, x minus 20 is equal to 4y, and then divide through by 4. My inverse function is going to be x minus 20 divided by 4. Find the inverse of this function. Same thing. I would just rewrite this as y is equal to x to the 11th plus 3. Flip-flop the x and y around, so I'd have x equals y to the 11th plus 3. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, so x minus 3 is equal to y to the 11th. The only way to get rid of a power is to take it to the root. So I'm going to take it to the 11th root. So my answer, my inverse function, is going to equal the 11th root of x minus 3. This week we're going to be talking about quadratic functions. And a lot of this stuff you should have had before. Quadratic functions shouldn't be anything new for most of you. In this section, we will study the graphs of polynomial functions. You have been introduced to the following basic functions already: linear functions, constant functions, a squaring function. These functions are examples of polynomial functions. And a polynomial function is defined any time that you have any number of terms added or put together, like x to the 4th plus 3x squared plus 2x plus 5, that is called a polynomial function. Polynomial functions are classified by the degree. For instance, a constant function, like f of x equals 7, it has no degree, so we call it a 0-degree polynomial function. A linear function, which we deal with all the time, like y is equal to 3x plus 4, that is a first degree or a linear function. A quadratic is something that is to the second degree. And that's what we're going to be dealing with a lot today, is a quadratic function, anything raised to the second power. For instance, each of the following functions is a quadratic, since the second power is the highest. Now I can multiply this out, but since it's x plus 1 squared, that's going to be x squared plus 2x plus 2, and then if you multiply through by 2, it's still x squared is going to be the highest exponent, or highest power. So we say that it is a quadratic. Anything that has x squared as its highest power is a quadratic. Definition of a quadratic function: let a, b, and c be real numbers. F of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. This is a quadratic function. We usually call this in standard form. The graph of a quadratic function is a special type of U-shaped curve called a parabola. So anytime you graph a quadratic function, it will always look like this. And it could go up, but it could also go down if the a value is negative. So if I gave you, this is what we call the parent function, y is equal to x squared. It starts at 0, 0, that's the vertex. Go over 1 up 1, over 1 up 3, over 1 up 5. This would be the graph of the parent function. And then if we're going to graph anything else, everything else goes off of the parent function. So for example, if I asked you to graph y is equal to, let's say, x plus 2 squared minus 3, well, I know that this is shifting it left and right. Well, this one, since it's plus 2, it's shifting it 2 places to the left and 3 places down. So this would be moved over 2 places to the left, 3 down. It would be the exact same parabola, except shifted to the left and down. So once you start understanding how to shift graphs, doesn't matter what type of graph it is, quadratics are fairly easy to shift left, right, up, and down. All parabolas are symmetric with respect to a line called the axis of symmetry. So this is what we call the axis of symmetry. The line that cuts the parabola directly in half. That is what we call the line of symmetry. The line of symmetry is always the x value of your vertex. So if our vertex here, if our vertex is -3, 2, our line of symmetry is going to be x equals -3. The line of symmetry is always your x value of the vertex. When the leading coefficient is positive, the graph opens up. So this is what we call the leading coefficient. It's the number in front of the highest power. So x squared is the highest power here. So my leading coefficient is a. If it's positive, the parabola opens up. If it's negative, the parabola opens down. So if I had y is equal to x squared, the leading coefficient is 1, that parabola is going to open up. If I have y is equal to -1x squared, now my leading coefficient is -1, I know my parabola is going to open down. So the leading coefficient is telling us if the parabola is going to open up or down. If a is greater than 0, the vertex is the point with the minimum value. So if the parabola is opening up, the vertex of the parabola is going to be called the minimum value, okay, because it's the very lowest point on the graph. If the a value is negative, then the parabola opens down and the vertex is called, it will be a maximum value because it is the highest point on the graph. When sketching the graph of ax squared, it is helpful to use the graph of y is equal to x squared as a reference. Now, back in Algebra 2, I used to teach the kids, it's called a pattern to graphing a parabola. For example, if you have the parent function, the pattern is 1, 3, 5. So what does that mean? Well, the vertex here is 0, 0. So it means if I go over 1, I go up 1. If I go over 1 again, I go up 3 this time. If I go over 1 again, I go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you do the same thing on both sides. That's the way you get a, that's your parabola. Now, if the a value is not 1, then all we do is we multiply our pattern by that. So for example, if I gave you 2x squared, and I said I want you to graph that. Well, no, it's no longer 1, 3, 5. I multiply it by 2, so now my pattern is 2, 6, 10. So what does that mean? So if I go over 1, this time I go up. If I go over 1 again, I go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see that this graph is going up a lot faster. The greater the a value is, the faster the graph is going to go up. And the pattern never changes. It just, the number of the a value just multiplies the pattern. And that tells you how fast that parabola is going to go up. Sketch the graph of each quadratic. Okay, so if I had 1/3 x squared, well, that means the a value is less than 1. That's going to be a fatter graph. It's going to go this, it's going to be much wider. So my pattern, instead of 1, 3, 5, I multiply everything by 1/3. So 1/3 times 1 is 1/3. 3 times 1/3 is 1. 5 times 1/3 is 5/3. So if I up 1, I'd go over a third, or I'm sorry, if I go over 1, I go up 1/3. If I go over 1 again, I go up 1. If I go over 1 again, I go up 5/3. So this means this parabola is going to be much wider than the parent function. Okay, so the number in front is going to tell you how wide it's going to be. If it's less than 1, if it's between 0 and 1, it's going to be much wider. If it's greater than 1, it's going to be much narrower. If I had a 10x squared, this graph is going to go way up really fast. So you always watch that number in front of the x squared term to tell you how wide or how narrow your graph is going to end up being. So here's the graph of x squared and 2x squared. You can see that 2x squared is much thinner. Well, it's not a whole lot thinner, but it is thinner than the x squared. Now, if you put a negative in front, it's only going to flip the parabola over. Now, if you have a plus or a minus, that is going to shift your graph up or down. So the standard form well, I call this vertex form. Our textbook calls it standard form, which I've never seen before in my life. These two numbers are your vertex. You always take the opposite of what's inside, though. So if this is minus k, you just take k and h. So if I gave you something like y is equal to x minus 3 squared plus 4, okay, this means my vertex is going to be positive 3, and that's a 4 there. So that would be my vertex. I always call this vertex form. Our textbook calls it standard form, which I don't get. The standard form is usually ax squared plus bx plus 1 plus c. The standard form of a quadratic function. Okay, this is where I don't agree with them. Standard form in every other textbook is ax squared plus bx plus c. I have no idea why they call this standard form. We usually call this form right here vertex form. And the reason we call it vertex form is because if you're given a function in this form, you know what the vertex is. So for example, if I gave you y is equal to 2, x plus 2 squared minus or plus 3, I know the vertex is negative 2, 3. This tells me that's why in most other textbooks, this is called vertex form. And we're going to be rewriting problems in vertex form tonight. So please make sure that when they ask you to write it in standard form, that you really are writing it in vertex form. And that's probably what you've heard it called before in your other math classes. As I said, we always call it vertex form. All other teachers that I know call it vertex form. This is the only textbook I've ever seen call it standard form. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to try to complete the square so we can see what the vertex is. So for example, if I gave you a problem like x squared plus 10x plus, let's say, 5, and I asked you to write this in vertex form, okay? What you do, and the steps are always the same, you just go x squared plus 10x plus something minus something. So what you're going to do is you're going to add a number, then you're going to subtract off a number. So basically, you're really adding 0 to the problem, right? So what do we add and subtract? Well, we always take half of the middle term. So half of 10 is 5 and square it. So I'm going to add 25 here. I'm going to subtract off 25. Why did we do that? Because now this is what is called a perfect trinomial square. If I factor this, it factors down to x plus 5, x plus 5. Well, instead of writing it that way, I just write it this way. X plus 5 squared, and then minus 25 plus 5, that's minus 20. This is vertex form now. What's the vertex? Negative 5, negative 20. That is my vertex. That's the reason why we usually call this vertex form, is because we can see the vertex when we rewrite it this way. All right, so let's graph by completing the square. All right, so I'm going to go t squared minus 8t plus something minus something minus 5 is equal to 0. Okay, so I take half of 8. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to add 16 and subtract off 16. If I factor this, it factors down to x minus 4 times x minus 4, or x minus 4 squared. Minus 16 minus 5, that's minus 21. So if I'm going to graph this thing, I know my vertex is at 4, negative 21. So 4, negative 21 is way down here, and then it's going to go up like this somehow. That's how I graph a quadratic when I write it in vertex form. So in this problem here, I'm going to bring the 9 over to this side. So I'm just going to rewrite it as x squared plus 10x plus something minus something. And then if I bring the 9 over, it's plus 9. Okay. Half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to add 25. I'm going to subtract off 25. When I factor this, I get x plus 5 times x plus 5, or x plus 5 quantity squared. Minus, well, minus 25 plus 9, what is that? Is that 16? Negative 16? So now my vertex is negative 5, negative 16. So if I go over negative 5 down 16, and then it's opening up. So there would be my graph of my function. Now, when there's a number in front of the x squared term, it makes it a little bit more difficult to factor or to rewrite in vertex form. Oops, so practice problem first. If I have a -1 in front, what I usually do is I usually pull that -1 out, and then I'll go x squared minus 6x plus 7 before I try to complete the square. So now I'm just going to look at this. I'm going to go x squared minus 6x plus something minus something plus 7. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to add 9. I'm going to subtract off 9. The factored form here is x minus 3 squared minus 9 plus 7. That's minus 2. And then I still have a negative out in front. In this problem, it says compare 2 times x minus 3. I have a feeling there's supposed to be a square up here. Plus 6 with x squared. Well, the graph is going to be thinner. It's going to be thinner because the a value. And then it's going to shift over. My vertex would be 3, 6. So it's going to be shift over 3 places to the right, 6 places up. That would be my graph of that function. To graph a parabola, it's helpful to begin by writing the quadratic function in standard form using the process of completing the square. So in this problem, this one's a little bit harder because we've got that 2 in front. So here's what I would do. I'd always start off 2x squared plus 8x plus something minus something plus 7. Well, you can't have a number in front of the x squared. So I'm going to factor out a 2. Okay? So I've got x squared plus 4x plus something minus something plus 7. Okay. So what am I going to add? Well, half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Now, a lot of kids are going to say, oh, I'm going to subtract 4. But in reality, I did not just add 4 to this problem. I have a 2 out in front here. That 2 goes to everything. So I really added 8 to this problem. Because 2 times 4 is 8, so I really have to subtract off 8. So my answer is going to be 2x plus 2 squared minus 1. Now you can check yourself anytime you want. I mean, if you go to Desmos and plug in 2x squared plus 8x, and then plug in 2x plus 2 squared minus 1, you should get the same equation. It should be the same graph. And if it's not the same graph, we did something really wrong, right? Because what we're doing is we're rewriting a function. We're not changing it, we're just rewriting it. So if we graph it out and we get 2 totally different graphs, we did something wrong. Okay, and here's the graph. Determine the vertex of the graph of this function. Well, the vertex of this graph, I could rewrite this graph as x plus 0 squared minus 2. So my vertex is 0, negative 2. To find the x-intercepts, we need to solve the equation, okay? Because finding x-intercepts helps us graph again. So if I wanted to solve or get the x-intercepts, I just set it equal to 0 and solve. That will give me my x-intercepts. The minimum and maximum values are just your vertex. So if you're looking for min-max, just your vertex. And I would say just to rewrite it in vertex form would be the easiest way of doing it. All right. I guess that is it for this week. You guys have a good week. Bye.